Hey guys, it's Rachel. This is my first video and I'm going to be telling you all about my experience becoming a vegetarian for 168 hours. Now, I would have just said a week because it's the same thing, but to me, I counted the hours. Okay, so 168 hours. I went from Friday at 5 p.m. last week to Friday at 5 p.m. this week, and let me just tell you, it was eye-opening. I chose to become a vegetarian for a few reasons. First reason for becoming a vegetarian would be that my fiance is a vegetarian. Now this happened randomly, like all of a sudden in our relationship. We had been together for, I don't know, 2 years I think, when he had decided, you know what, I'm just gonna stop eating meat. And to me, that was like, wow, like how can you just stop eating meat? Now let me, for reference, tell you that this is the guy that used to go to McDonald's and get quarter pounders with cheese every single day. So I was just like, why? And it was interesting to kind of see his transition and how he dealt with that. And I was like, you know what? I want to see like the life that you live. And also, you know, I know a few other people who have like decided that eating meat is just not for them. And there's a number of reasons why people choose not to eat meat. So I just wanted to, you know, experience that lifestyle. So this is my fiance, guys, one of my resources in my vegetarianism journey. And I guess we can hear from him. How do you feel about vegetarianism? Does it work for you? Do you think you'll ever go back to eating meat? If you do, what kinds of meat?
Well, they did raise a 600-pound cow on just vegetation, so why not raise, I'm not saying become 600 pounds, but I mean, if you can raise a healthy cow to 600 pounds on just vegetation, then it should be okay for you to not eat meat.
So what you're saying is you'll never go back to eating meat?
I don't know, probably not. Probably not.
Interesting. Since they have so desperately decided they want to be part of my video, I will quickly throw in a picture of my dogs. And then, you know, another reason, reading through like this book by Michael Pollan, The Omnivore's Dilemma, it's crazy. Like the things that you find out. Now, I'm not going to say like I didn't know that factory farming was like a thing and that animals can get treated bad, but I honestly had no idea like the scale of like the way they were treated, the amount of stuff they put in our food, how they're fed, the things that they're eating. It's crazy to me, like honestly mind-blowing, the things that I realized, like looking back, that I put in my body. And yeah, I was just like, let's try to like not do that for a week and see how that goes. So that's what I did. I chose to go vegetarian and it was interesting. I did a little bit of research on this vegetarianism thing and I found a few sites that were really convincing. Okay, so some other sources for my research that I used on becoming a vegetarian is, well, obviously, I guess I could say I just used Google. I looked up, I think one of the first things I looked up was what defines a vegetarian, and the different things that I found. There are different types of vegetarians, so you could be, they call them like semi-vegetarians, I guess you could say. You still eat fish sometimes. Those are pescatarians, but some people still eat fish and dairy. If you eat like fish and eggs still, but you don't eat other meats, it's called a ovo-pescatarian. It's interesting. There's a bunch of different kinds of classifications, I guess you could say. And then vegans are just like full on no meat byproducts, anything like that, no seafood. So I will admit, my very first night becoming for the vegetarian thing, yeah, I think it was the first night. I went out to dinner with some friends. I went to La Perota in Farmville, and I was looking at the menu, and now, mind you, I'm still new to this whole thing, and I wasn't sure how I would like certain things, certain vegetarian things, and there's certain vegetables I'm just not a fan of. So I looked at the menu, and I was like, okay, my fiance, he is like kind of like pescatarian. He eats fish, but he also eats like eggs and things like that. And I was like, maybe I can do that. So I did have a seafood quesadilla the first day I was there. So it was shrimp and crab. And so I did have that. But every day and every meal after that, I had no meat at all, not even seafood. Because I was like, you know what? Let's commit to this full-fledged and no meat. So that's what I did. And I found some interesting articles. Please excuse my voice because I don't know why, but I've lost it somewhere and I can't find it. It's been a few weeks. It just goes in and out. But And the first document that I kind of want to talk about that I researched is called The Moral Life by Louis P. Pogman. And I think that's how you say his name. Really sorry if it's not. And it kind of is interesting that his whole argument is attacking what you believe as an individual. So it's really like makes you sit back and question yourself a lot. And he uses a lot of ethics scenarios in this. So he says, like, if you know utilitarianism, and it's like if the good outweighs the bad, then it's inherently good and not bad, and things like that. He says, now, if you really believe that animals are sentient beings that have feelings, and they're capable of feeling pain, and that you yourself are a person, a morally good or, average person, if you feel that you are a person who would go out of their way to avoid causing pain to others, and you believe that animals feel pain, why wouldn't you, as a person, go out of your way to avoid causing animals pain? And by knowing all these things, knowing that animals are like castrated without anesthesia and have their beaks cut off and talons taken off, all of this just so they can fit into a factory farm and then be fed to you, wouldn't you stop buying that product to stop supporting the farms that go out of their way to cause harm to an animal? And I sat back and was like, wow, I'm a bad person. And I don't think it's really exactly I'm supposed to say, you're a terrible human being if you choose to eat meat, but it's just like, are you really the person that you think you are if you're not considering these things? Here, I'm just going to read this little excerpt from his paper here. It's on page 877, and it's called, this section is titled A Utilitarian Gambit, Perhaps Human Gustatory Pleasure Outweighs Animal Suffering. It says, a species carnivore might object that I have conveniently omitted one of her pertinent beliefs. Human pleasure always outweighs animal suffering. Given this, since humans derive gustatory pleasure from eating the flesh of non-human animals, other things are not equal. Accordingly, there is a justifying reason for the agony billions of farm animals are forced to endure: taste. First, you do not actually believe that. Remember Harmon's cat. You do not believe that the pleasure, Harmon's cat's earlier, but you'll understand. You do not believe that the pleasure the thugs get from burning a cat alive morally justifies their disregarding the cat's interest in avoiding suffering. You do not believe that the pleasure a sadistic Satanist gets out of slowly torturing a fully conscious dog by skinning it and eating it alive, even if he gets immense gustatory pleasure from doing so, outweighs the dog's interest in avoiding such suffering. So if you think about that, I am a dog person. I have 2 dogs. I have a pit bull and a lab, and I love my dogs. I accidentally step on their toe and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, please don't hate me. And I know that they feel pain, they yelp, I can hear it. So why is it so much different for us to feel that cows and chickens don't feel this pain? And especially in factory farms when they're maltreated, I just a lot of it is just making me think wow, he really does have a point here, and I do understand that. So it's very interesting the way he looks at this and the way he kind of really makes you think about yourself. In this article here, he talks about there's billions, from anywhere from thousands to billions of animals each year that go to these slaughterhouses, and some of them, a large majority of animals, when they get to the slaughterhouse, the FDA will have to take a chunk of them out. They don't even go into the slaughterhouse because they're either too sick, they're already dead upon arrival, and they're too tore up to be served to people. It says, and I quote, for this is on page 865, chickens, turkeys, duck, and geese are not considered animals under the act, and that act is the Federal Humane Slaughter Act. They're not considered animals under the act and hence receive no protection at all. So, yeah. Before I talk about my feelings on all of this, I'm going to talk about my last 2 sources. That is, this one's going to be real quick. It's the health benefits of a vegetarian diet. That's a article I found on cambridge.org, and it'll be in the source list, so don't worry, it'll be there. for you guys to look at. It's by Timothy J. Key, Gwyneth K. Davey, and Paul N. Appleby. This one is just some statistical data. So the other one was more like ethical. This one's just statistical, basically health data. And I'm just going to read the conclusion real quick because that's basically sums it all up that I was looking at. So on the last page, or on 274 of this article, it says, compared with non-vegetarians, Western vegetarians have a lower BMI by about 1 kilogram per meter squared, a lower plasma cholesterol concentration, and a lower mortality from IHD, which is heart disease. They may also have a lower risk for some other diseases such as diverticular disease, gallstones, and appendicitis. Now, side note on appendicitis, I had appendicitis, like my appendix almost burst. I was really close to it. So, like, part of me just, like, when I read that kind of clicked, I was like, what if I was a vegetarian, like, all my life? Maybe that would have never happened to me. It's just, like, something interesting to think, you know, all those what if questions. So that's interesting. Yeah, because it is not fun. Trust me, appendicitis is not a great time. But then it also says, there is no evidence of adverse effects on mortality. No difference in mortality from common cancers has been established. Much more information is needed, particularly on other causes of death, osteoporosis, and long-term health in vegans. Let me just talk about my last source real quick. And that was this book that I previously mentioned. And it was like the first one that opened up a lot of these things to me. And that was before I even chose to take this path. That was like while we were in class, I decided, yo, like something needs to happen here because this is crazy. And I just want to read like a quote from this book that talks about my feelings during this journey. So like I mentioned earlier, my fiance randomly went vegetarian on me, and it was weird to me because like some of our favorite things to do, like date night, would be like go to a steakhouse, or I don't know, like I would cook things for him, and I always like to make grilled chicken, or like if I made stir-fried rice, I would always put chicken in it and things like that. And it was just interesting, like to me it was never a question of like, oh, what should I put in here? It was just like, this sounds good, this sounds good, this sounds good. And like I never really had to like restrict myself, and so that was really interesting. On page 314, this quote really kind of, I guess it was almost my staple for my whole vegetarian journey. And it is, here we go, sorry. It starts out here. What troubles me most about my vegetarianism is the subtle way it alienates me from other people, and odd as this might sound, from a whole dimension of human experience. I was worried like that was gonna be me. I didn't know, there was no way I could cut this stuff out of my diet because every Thanksgiving I always eat turkey and ham and venison, and green beans have bacon in them. Like that's just kind of how it is. And then it was like I just didn't know what to do. There was that disconnect for me from other people. Like I work at Buffalo Wild Wings, I'll put that out there, and my friends and I don't eat like a big amount, especially when I'm working, because I don't like being full and then running around on a full stomach. So I would get chicken quesadillas with my friends, and then we would split the quesadilla, and then we would also get like a side of fries with cheese and bacon on them or something like that. Like there was meat. And my friend would be like, hey, today do you want to split a quesadilla? And I had to say, oh, I'm really sorry, like I can't eat that, I can't eat meat. Like, I don't know, maybe we can eat something else together. So there was that disconnect from my friends. But with my fiance, there was like a reconnect. So that was really interesting. It's kind of different. We shared things now. Like we went out to a football game together and we got nachos, and he was like, I can't have nachos because they have meat in them. I said, no, I'm just gonna get like chips and cheese, and we shared that. Day 2, nachos with no meat at the football game. And then there was other things, like when I got that seafood quesadilla that I mentioned earlier, I brought the leftovers home to him. I usually can't bring home leftovers for him. So that was kind of cool. I was like, hey, I have something, like I ate something for dinner that you can also have for dinner. So that was really interesting. I was excited because I got to understand him better. So that's when like why I did this. It was really interesting. So the next thing I guess I would like to talk about would be, what did I do this week? So my first day, I was gonna start on Friday, and then I came home and I made a ham and chicken sandwich, and then I ate my sandwich, and then I looked at my plate I was like, Rachel, you already messed up. So that's why I started at 5 p.m. on Friday. So there's that. And then on Friday night, I went out and I got that quesadilla. And then Saturday, I work another job. I do wedding catering. So Saturday, I had a peanut butter and jelly after that football game that I talked about. And then I really didn't have anything else because I worked the wedding the rest of the day. And then Sunday, I worked at my other job. And I don't think I ate anything else. Sunday, I went to McDonald's and I had an iced coffee and then some fries while I was reading Michael Pollan's book about fast food and things like that. So I kind of felt like a little bit of a hypocrite. I'll insert a picture of that a little bit right here. One day I made a cheese quesadilla at home one of the days, and then I ate actually a cheese quesadilla at work. So I did ask them to not put the chicken on it at work. And that was interesting. It sucks when you go out. My restaurant doesn't offer like a cheese quesadilla option, so I actually had to pay for the chicken I didn't eat. You know what? It was worth it. The quesadilla was still really good. I didn't have any issues with it. I made a peanut butter and jelly a couple times. I made vegetable soup one night. That was really good. And I had for breakfast one day, I had a cream cheese and honey bagel. Or actually it was English muffin. Cream cheese and honey English muffin. That was pretty good. And I went to McDonald's. I know, it's terrible, fast food, but I did what I could. I got a egg and cheese McMuffin with no Canadian bacon on it. So I got that every time. And it's really weird how a lot of these things come standard with Canadian bacon. Like, they didn't take off anything for me to not get the bacon. I still had to pay for it. But, you know, whatever. It was fine. It still tasted really good. And yeah, that was really nice. So, like, my biggest challenge, I guess I would say, for being a vegetarian for an entire week was just, like, avoiding things I usually eat. It is day 4 of my vegetarian journey, and I feel like I'm on an episode of Survivor. My sister just texted me and asked me to take her to Chick-fil-A, and the temptation is real. But I can get mac and cheese, I guess. I really reminded myself, like, why I was doing it. It was easier and easier throughout the week to cut those things out of my diet. My biggest takeaway from this whole 168 hours of being a vegetarian would be that, first of all, I can do anything that I put my mind to because it's not as hard as it seems. And I have to do what's best for me as a person. I think that it was really difficult for me to completely cut it out of my diet, and I didn't have the resources and the time and the money to actually go out and get the proper supplements for protein and things like that. So I am pretty sure that I didn't get all the proper nutrients that I needed during this week. So maybe it's something I could work harder at. I also thought a lot about the farm that we talked about in Swope, Virginia, and all the free range stuff. And I think that if I could actually genuinely find free range organic things like that, I wouldn't mind putting those in my diet, because I like chicken and I like beef, but I don't like the fact that I'm putting all that stuff in my body. So if I can actually get these things unprocessed, basically, I would love to try and do that. So I am gonna try to next Saturday, I couldn't go today, but next Saturday I'm gonna go to the farmer's market and see what they have there for me. And I want to try cooking with more organic ingredients, but I also would like to try cutting meat out of my diet, not completely, but maybe a lot less, like chop it up and then go little by little. I don't know if I'll completely remove it. I want to see how I feel about it. I'm going to give it a little bit more time, but I'm going to kind of just wean myself off and, you know, slow down a little bit and try to put more whole grains and more fruits and vegetables into my diet, because I feel like that might make me feel a lot better about like the things that I eat and put into my body and make me just a little bit happier. So yeah. So, you know, that was my 168 hours as a vegetarian, and I hope that some of it was informative. I'm not trying to sway you either way. I just want you to hear all the facts that came from me and understand my experience, and I want you to do what's best for you and makes you happy and makes you the best you that you can be. Goodbye.